Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us brave. What time you said coming over you. You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good evening and a happy new year. It is the three amigos on NUFC Matters, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend. And the boys are back in town. Welcome to George, Mitch and Steve. And welcome to you as we have 2 hours of Newcastle United crack on the best show around on a Friday night. And we're dedicating this show to the memory of this man, a referee. Yes, David Laws, or Davey as he was affectionately known to most of the people on Tyneside, passed away sadly on New Year's Day, aged 67. Well known for being the CEO of Newcastle Airport for over a decade. He also spent 2 years championing the region as the president of the North East Chamber of Commerce. Our thoughts are with Davey family at this time. And top man Davey. Had a lot of dealings with him years ago. Supported a lot of the events that we put on over a decade ago when he was at the airport. And of course, probably the legacy that he leaves is that he was the man who it's been attributed to for bringing the Emirates direct Dubai flight to the region, Mitch, which know is relied heavily on, isn't it? Really, by the Mitchell family on occasions.
Well, it certainly was over Christmas, and certainly has been by the Hasty family as well. Sad news indeed for somebody. I mean, I think that's a deal which really has transformed Newcastle Airport and has opened the door to the talks that are believed to be going on now with PIF and looking at how much bigger the airport could become. And some of that couldn't happen without that direct Dubai flight. I'm quite sure of that.
Yep. Okay. Well, that's this is who the show is dedicated to tonight. So, as I say,
Steve, just one little bit from me. Also had the integrity to be able to referee the 2 deadly enemies in a game without any controversy at all, which I'm not sure whether would be allowed to happen nowadays. But he had that sort of credibility, didn't he?
Yeah, he certainly did, mate. He certainly did. Okay, let's look back. We don't often look back on this show, but let's look back at a win at Old Trafford.
Hey.
Wow, yes, the second time we've done it in the Premier League in the space of the last 11 years, and only the third time really in the last 50 years. So obviously 1972, that game after Newcastle had been dumped unceremoniously out of the FA Cup by Ronnie Radford's goal. But yeah, a win, and a comprehensive win. Dare say we haven't seen a more one-sided first half against Manchester United at Old Trafford ever. But yes, a win all the same. And I will highlight this. Lots of YouTubers and podcasters and people on social media. But Denise sent me this one in. She thought it might be handy.
Yeah.
She goes, the general thoughts of this young lady were that Newcastle took the mick out of us in the first half, 30 minutes. They could have been 4-0 up at half time. In the second half, they were professional and saved energy, inviting us on because they probably knew we wouldn't score. Tonali, Bruno and Joe Linton destroyed us. We all saw it coming before the match. But that Newcastle midfield is special and unstoppable right now. They've got their midfield balance spot on. Lewis Hall was excellent. Newcastle destroyed us from crossing. Isaac made Leacham look like a League One player. And Isaac destroyed our defenders. Pure class. It was too easy for Newcastle. We didn't bother them much in the second half. And in the first half, it was men versus boys. Isaac 1-on-1, Tonali going close. They could have scored 4. Newcastle were compact out of possession, pressed us well, outran us, and beat us to the second balls. Eddie Howe got it spot on. Amaran didn't. None of these in that girl's post. No canned tears from her. But an honest appraisal, George, and Newcastle did well.
Yeah, and I mean, I've was pointed to what that girl writes by Denise a while ago, and I pick up a podcast occasionally just to have a look what you're saying about Manchester United generally, and she talks a lot of sense. I mean, you can see there, that's not somebody, as you say, crying in their beer. That's somebody making an honest assessment of what happened, and what an assessment. I mean, at the end of the day, that first 30, 40 minutes was just unbelievable. And I don't care who had been playing, Manchester United, anybody else, would have struggled to stay with us in that period of time. And some of the football, particularly in midfield, but also the crosses. If you go to the first goal, you see the ball that swung out to young Lewis Hall, and in one motion, he killed and crossed the ball at the same time. Something I was talking about the other night, that he's developed, he can play his football now. He can concentrate on playing his football instead of just getting rid of the ball to the nearest player. Now, in that one motion, he killed it and crossed it in one movement and left Isaac with a nod in. It was absolutely sublime. And from the other side, from Gordon to Joe Linton, I mean, it just was sublime. So the way you can describe it, we were on fire is putting it mildly, and right across the team, from the back as well, because Dubravka did nothing wrong. Did quite a few things right in my opinion, yeah, it'll be a long time since we get such a comprehensive victory of all anywhere, never mind at Old Trafford. And the fact that we coasted the second half, I thought was again Eddie outdoing the Manchester manager, because he knew he had it, and it was just great from start to finish. The other things I really was disappointed about was the Manchester United manager's performance. When he subbed that young lad on 30 minutes, I'll be surprised if that young lad lasts much longer. How he gets him back on the field after doing that, and you know, virtually pinning the way things were going on him, when in fact there was nobody on the Manchester back off or in the middle. At least Maguire was trying. That was doing anything, couldn't get near our midfield. Yet he chose to sub that young lad, and I'm not surprised he was in tears, poor kid, because there was ways in which he could have done that. At the time it was, if it'd been me, I'd have shuffled him around and give him a man marking job because he's got the legs to do something like that until half time, and he could sort things out. But the way in which he took him off, I thought was puts questions against his man management in my estimation. His response to comments after the match didn't do him any good either. So a great night, and I was so pleased that our yeah, that's right. Somebody's just saying he's scapegoated for Ericsson and the other guy in midfield, Casemiro. And when he could have easily been protected better than he was. Anyway, the important thing for us is that we were sitting here a couple of weeks ago, well, about a month ago, looking at all these games we're going to play and trying to forecast what we thought would happen and how things would go. And I think the one thing we all said, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if the right Newcastle turned up, we could win all those matches. Well, guess what, boys? The right Newcastle turned up, and we got the victories that we deserved, and the victories that the team deserved, and more importantly, the victories our coach deserved, because he got the tactics right, he got the teams right. There's not much that you could say that Newcastle on the day got wrong, and that's Eddie Howe's entitled to all the credit for that. He gets all the brickbats when he gets it wrong. Well, he's entitled to the credits when he gets it right. And as I say, a month ago we were just sitting here saying, well, if the right team turns up, we'll give all these teams a go. Well, we did more than give them a go. We'll give them. I'll use my favourite word. We give them all a shellacking, without any doubt. It's been fantastic to watch, and a joy to be a supporter.
What's your feelings then on that, Mitch? Great performance. It was comprehensive.
It was, and we said going into it we'd never have a better chance. And we've said that before, so it really delighted me that they rocked up and took that chance. There's a growing ruthlessness there, which I really enjoy. This is similar to Leicester and similar to Ipswich. There was one point in that first half, if you'd pressed pause and turned around to everybody, particularly had Isaac taken his one-on-one or Tonali's chance gone in instead of rattling out off the post, it could have been anything in that first half. We could have gone in not just 4-0 at half-time. That's how disorganised they were, and that's how ruthless we were being. I think we've had a run of games where we've genuinely put away the people in front of us without any real compassion, and we've looked at business doing it. And to do it at Old Trafford is very heartwarming indeed, to see them humbled at the moment, and a lot of it's of their own doing. And all the chit chat from them when Ashworth went to join them, and all the bravado from some of the less erudite podcasters, etc., saying that they got a bargain with a right back who, frankly, between Hall and Gordon, was totally dismantled the other night. This is the kind of Newcastle United we like to see, and you get the distinct impression there's more to come if we need it. This is the other side of it is really in that second half we did sort of just see them off. Yes, they changed things up and they had to get involved. God, if a Man United team kind of try and come back at we in the second half at home, there's something really very wrong there. But again, we didn't look uncomfortable at all. And so, I think going forward, there's a lot we can bottle out of that and take forward, and feel genuinely comfortable about.
Steve, your feelings on that match? I mean, a 2-0 win. Yes, Manchester United got their problems. In fact, you'd be forgiven to think that, Newcastle didn't really win that game on merit. It was all because Man United are that poor with some of the media coverage. But, I thought it was a great performance by Newcastle. Men against boys, and man to man, Newcastle were a much better team and look as if they could, finish above Manchester United for the first time in their Premier League history.
Absolutely, Steve. It was the most comprehensive 2-0 win. I think I've watched Newcastle United playing for an awful long time. From start to finish, I mean, from the first minute, you could see that they were up for it, and you could see that Manchester United just didn't have a clue. They were all over the place, absolutely all over the place. They look shambolic. They look disorganized. They look as though the manager is giving out instructions that none of them can understand or can get a grip with. But let's not take anything away from our performance. I thought Tonali in that reverse libero role, sitting in front of the back four or the two centre backs rather than sitting behind, as a libero normally would in Italy. I thought he was outstanding. He just patrolled that central midfield area. He won the ball. He was cutting off when it was needed. He was giving the ball to Bruno, who was sublime all game. The turns and the twists, and I mean, Casemiro must have been sitting there thinking, not only am I finished at international level, I'm finished at this level, and you know what? Nobody in Saudi Arabia is going to buy me either, because quite frankly, his performance was atrocious. I thought we stretched them well. I thought that our movement was superb, and all in all, a really, really, really good performance. And I think George is right. The way that they treated Xerxes, who wasn't one of the worst players on the pitch, by the way. I mean, I thought that the lad was doing what he was asked to do. One of the few. He was given that task of playing on that left-hand side, and he was doing it. He was up against Trippier, who, is no mean feat. And he was backtracking and trying to control Gordon as well, while the rest of the midfield just stood around. As did young Ahmad and Miano, or whatever it's called, when he came on for periods, because they hadn't really come on with any true instruction. And you look at that and you think, dear me, if we can do that, then the world's our oyster in terms of going forward. Some of the fixtures that we've got coming up, a great end to 2024. And then we'll come on, and I'm sure later on we'll be talking about Tottenham and the Tottenham game. But just great to see all-round performances, goals, efforts hitting the post, players looking as though they're really enjoying themselves, and like somebody said, wanting to go in for the kill, having that appetite to really, really strike while the iron's hot. And we're a team now that gets off to a good start. This is another little phase, I watched a game the other night where they were talking about teams who start early and then really struggle, but we didn't struggle at all. And I don't think, despite the odd chance that they had, they never looked like they were going to score. It was a case of whether they could keep the scores down to 2. And I think in the second half we just decided to just sit back and see whether they had anything, and humiliate them, because it was pretty obvious that they didn't. So all in all, fantastic finish to 2024, Steve.
Well, the fans in the chat have asked for this man, and here he is. Welcome, Melly. Happy New Year.
Hello, Melly, mate.
Happy New Year, Melly.
Got my tin hat on.
What's going on, Melly? What's going on?
Melly, I just want to say, when we went to Sunderland last season, we got a bar named after us, and we got some great hospitality at Sunderland. They give us free beer, they give us free chocolates in the FA Cup. I've got to say, Manchester United was a huge letdown, mate, for us going down to Old Trafford. If you call this a hot dog, mate, honestly, mate, I'm never going back. Horrendous. Joking aside, Melly, welcome to the show, mate. And lots of people asking, "Where's Melly? Where's Melly?" Well, give us your view, mate. I saw your view on X. You basically said 2 crosses. That was the difference. Are you still of the same opinion after watching it back?
Well, you know what you did. you did exactly what was needed. You came out in the first 25 minutes and you put the game to bed. We just couldn't deal with you in the first 25. If Isak's goal's not disallowed, that's 3-0. We're dead and buried. But what I was trying to get at in that post was, again, Man United concede, not from set pieces, but from crosses, which is similar, right? But we're then going on to have a lot of chances as well. And it could have quite easily finished, well, 4-4 for me, but looking back on the game, I think that Newcastle got the 2 early goals and then they kind of just coasted from there. I think when Bruno, Joe Linton and Tonali have looked at the midfield that he's put out, I think they would have been rubbing their hands. On the other hand, I think Amorum's probably maybe scored. Casemiro, with the Brazilian, might have had the upper hand because, he obviously keeps them out of the Brazil squad. So maybe he's thinking that a bit of mind game there, but that did not go into plan, and they absolutely tore them. Well, you know what, they tore them. And then they brought on Manu when the game changed. I thought we got a bit of control in midfield. But, if you don't put your chances away, as we've seen, for the last 4 or 5 games, then you get beat. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, we are going to see different games when we follow our teams. You and I do try to not be as biased. It is difficult, of course, when football's involved. But I think that was probably our most comprehensive performance at Old Trafford. And I've been to quite a few shellackings at the hands of Manchester United, but I think that was probably our most comprehensive performance at Old Trafford for a long, long time. And I'd forgotten that we did finish above you last season. That was an achievement. It's the first time we'd ever finished above you in the Premier League. Potentially could do it again this season. I mean, you've seen Newcastle firsthand now. You've seen teams win things at Old Trafford. And Newcastle far away, Melly, from potentially winning something. The Carabao Cup's obviously going to be difficult. We've got Arsenal. And potentially, if we get through that game, we know we're probably going to face Liverpool. But are Newcastle a bit closer to to potentially winning that trophy, do you think, as a Manchester United fan?
Do you know what? Can I be completely honest? I thought your best chance was 2023. And then what worries us is you get to the final and then you just drop it. And I think you'll beat Arsenal and I think you'll get to another final. It's just whether or not you've got it in your bag. Maybe this final has just 2 minutes. Maybe this final's done you good losing to Man United, because then you can get into another final and you know what to expect. The trouble is, right, Steve, as you know as well as I do, 4 or 5 weeks ago, a lot of the fan base was saying, Eddie out, you lose a game, you lose the second game, and then you've got this fickle fan base that kick in and they want Eddie out, and Longstaff's not good enough, he's not good enough. But they've showed that in the last 4 weeks what they're capable of doing. Can you build on that? Or is Newcastle going to do what they always do and then get into January and February and have a bad run? I hope not. Out of the 4 remaining teams, I hope he's gone on and win it personally. But I just worry that when you get to that final stage, the other team that'll be there, most likely, will have a lot of final experience. Newcastle's only got 1 recently. So I think it's going to be difficult, but I think you'll definitely be in the final.
Melly, can I ask you? I hear what you're saying about the fickle fan base, and can we roll it back to your fan base? And can I ask you, because obviously you've changed managers, you've demanded a new manager, you've got a new manager. Some of you are already crying out, saying that they want him out because he's not doing what they want. You're not winning games. He wants to play a formation that obviously you haven't got the quality within the squad to be able to play. He looks like he's decided, in my opinion, that he wants to go down to do a complete rebuild, because if he cannot get that formation that he wants, why is he persevering with it? Why is he not going back to what those players understand, which is a back four, 4 midfield and 2 up front, or a 4-3-3? Why is he going in what he's doing? Because to me, it's almost suicidal. They talk about, we hear it with Southampton. Southampton's manager, he brings the team up, he comes into the Premiership, and everybody's saying, "Oh, they've got no plan B." Well, you've brought a manager in who's only got a plan A, and his plan A is to play 5 at the back and wing backs. He hasn't got the wing backs, and he hasn't got the 3 defenders. What's going on?
Well, first and foremost, I think that it was a mistake sacking Eric Ten Hag, because obviously, they're his players. And because they sacked Ten Hag, I would have stuck with Ruud van Nistelrooy. But what they've done is they brought in a manager who has been really successful in Sporting, and he implements his style of play. But he's trying to implement a style of play with a bunch of players who was bought by another manager, and it's not working. But he's not going to drop that, because that's what happens. You drop your formation, you drop your style of play, and before you know it, you're getting sacked again, because these players couldn't even play at Ten Hag's way with 4 at the back. So trying to get them to play this way, and they put him in the middle of like the busiest time of the year, where he's getting very little training to put across his ideas to these players who couldn't play in normal. Because let's be honest, Manchester United have been poor for a lot of years, but the last 2 years especially, they've been really bad. They've seen off a lot of managers, but I think this time this manager's been chosen through the new Ineos, and I don't think they're going to be able to get rid of him. So these players either book their ideas up, or they're going to be sold. It's going to be hard selling them, because a lot of them are on big money, and that's the trouble that we've got. Yeah. But if Man United say were to get relegated, because nobody's too big to go down, right? And I'm telling you now, every team fancies their chances against us at the minute. They've just got to do what you did and what Bournemouth did. Get at in the first 20 minutes, and they absolutely cack their pants, and they don't know what to do. And then we'll create chances, but we haven't got anybody to score goals. So 9 times out of 10, we're gonna lose the game. And I think that's what everybody will be coming, whether we're playing home or away. They'll be targeting us for the first 20, 30 minutes, because he isn't going to change his style of play. Because that's his motto, and it's got him a lot of success over the years. So why should he change that? It'll probably do with the world of good. And now the soon's mental. To go down, you'll get rid of all the players. You'll get rid of a lot of fans, the ones that you were just on about there, who wanted the other manager out. I never wanted the other manager out. I never, you've got to have a plan. You've got to stick with it. But the trouble with Man United fans, well, a lot of Man United fans, is the one instant success, and it's not going to happen. It isn't 1990. We haven't got the class of 92 coming through. We've got to recruit, but we've got to recruit properly, instead of just chucking money at players and saying, yes, 350 grand a week. How can you motivate somebody from 350 grand a week? You cannot. You've got to have some kind of United in your heart. Play for the badge. Leave everything out there, because a lot of them, they're walking around. They couldn't give a crap. They're still getting 200, 300 grand at the end of the week, win, lose, or draw. Manchester United's history means nothing to them. They're from Brazil. They're from Portugal. They're from everywhere. And that's the problem that we've got. And it's going to be a hell of a long rebuild.
If only there weren't rules set by the Premier League that would stop you from spending whatever you wanted.
Well, the thing is, right? Yes, that affects you, but that doesn't affect us, because I'm not trying to be big-headed here, but we earn a hell of a lot of money in revenue throughout the season, sponsors, stadiums, so we have been able to spend. But what I will say to you, mate, Mitch, is
you've
that
also just said that going down might be a good thing, and I can promise you from first-hand experience, it never is. Never is.
I know, but I'm not. Look, I don't want to go down, and I don't think we will go down, to be honest. But what I said was, if we went down, it could be a good thing, as in getting rid of a hell of a lot of dead wood, a hell of a lot, and then people wouldn't be so keen to follow it. All these fan comers, YouTubers who are just creating negativity around the club. They would jump onto another club, because then we wouldn't have as much pull. That's the only positives about going down. And I understand you've been there firsthand and you've experienced it. So, we've got that to come to, we'll deal with that if it does happen. But you've just been on about there. Stopping you from spending money. We are a prime example of, if you are able to go out and basically get whoever you want, it doesn't guarantee success. I think your success is coming from good recruitment. You've got players there who want to leave everything on the pitch. They interact with the fans. They've got that relationship. The gap between fan and player at United has never been further. They walk in with their headphones. They walk out with their headphones. There's nothing there. You know, like, so I think your success, and you need to be careful what you wish for, because if you know, like, if it just opens up and you can buy who you want, then you're gonna attract all the wrong players.
Yeah, I mean, our success also comes from having a manager or coach, or whatever you want to call them, and a set of players who are in tune with each other. You've got a board that are in tune with them. You've got the fan base that's in tune with them, and you've got the players themselves that are obviously enjoying playing alongside each other and enjoying going into work. They're all the things that you don't have at the moment. You've got a manager, like you say, who's got players who are not part of his setup. They're not able to play in the formation that he wants. You've got players who don't want to be there. You've got players who have an attitude that they think are better than they are. It's a recipe for disaster. And being a supporter, it must kill you to watch and see what's going on and feel as though, because you do naturally, you know, we're the biggest club in the world, and we've got people who are. It must be driving you mad, mate. It really must be when you see the attitude of those players on the pitch.
It's infuriating, because you've got, like, you know, you've got hundreds of thousands of kids who've gone through ranks and been dropped, and you see these lot that were lucky enough to come through that rank, get to the world's biggest stage, and then just hang up tools because, like, something's gone on, or, you know, like, something hasn't gone their way. You just think, these are the luckiest people in the world. You could live 100 more lives and never become as lucky as what you are now. Literally, you've got, you know, like, I don't know how to fix it. I said, like, years ago, what they should do was, you know, like, your ratings. So you're rated between 1 and 10 after a match, and say if you got 1 out of 10, then you got 10% of your wage. If you got 8 out of 10, you got 80% of your wage. And I think that would just sort it out overnight. I think you would see a totally different game, because they're all money driven. The only likely left in football is us lot.
Yeah, it's not a bad point. I've got to ask you this question from James Melly. He says, ask Melly what he thinks about Ratcliffe. If you remember, I think I came onto your podcast, Talking Turf. Make sure you get over there and subscribe to Melly's channel on YouTube.
Yes,
but, I came onto your show, and when we were talking about Ratcliffe, I said he was just going to end up being a patsy for for the Glazers. And you obviously were prepared to give him a chance. God, I mean, he's investing a hell of a lot of money. He's coming in. He's got new ideas. He decided to nick our director of football, Ashworth. I mean, that didn't work out well. What's your feelings on Ratcliffe now? Are you still convinced that he's the man to turn it round? Has he still got his begging bowl out to get us all to chip in to build you a new stadium?
Well, you know what? I think we're going to need another year or two of Ratcliffe to see exactly what he's doing, because at the moment, every decision that he's making is like, it's been magnified and meant to look like he's targeting the poor, but he's making decisions that we've just gone along with for years, you know, like things that didn't need to do. We've got 200 more staff than anybody else in the Premier League. We don't need that, you know, like, that's just for instance. So yes, he's public enemy number 1 at the minute, and amongst a lot of fans. I mean, everybody wanted the Sheik. Me personally, you know, I wanted a British man. I wanted somebody who supported the club, and that's kind of what we got. But it does look like he's Mike Ashley in disguise at the minute, to be fair. Like, but we'll see. Well, you know, he spent a lot of money there in the summer. You know, he brought signings in, albeit not very good ones. But you know, so you've got to give him a chance. You've got to see how it goes. But I know a lot of the fan base is like totally against them. They wanted the club completely sold out, zero debt. They wanted instant success, basically, you know. So, but the reason that Ashworth left is because he didn't agree with the more managerial position. He wanted Eddie Howe or Graham Potter. He wanted an Englishman in there, and apparently that Barada went against them, and they went for a more stupidly, like I said, they should have left Wood Van Nistelrooy there till the end of the season. Brought him in the summer, so then he's got a good 6 to 8 weeks to train with them. He can bring in a few players if he wants, get rid of a few that he doesn't want. I think they've just chucked him in the deep end here, and like you say, there's a few fans already getting on his back, but You know, I like him. I like how he talks. I like the fact, although like a lot of people are saying about Rashford, you know, like, no, it's shocking. I think it's right. He hasn't, you know, like this man's picked up millions and millions of pounds in wages. And if you watch his videos back, a lot of them, like, he doesn't look interested. So he's dropped them, rightfully so. I think it's right for him and right for us that he leaves. I think he'll get on and be a good player elsewhere. I just think he's got something hanging over him in Manchester, or maybe he's the wrong crowd. I watched that Gaza, and you should watch that if you haven't watched it. It's on Prime. I watched that Gaza documentary last night, and that is unbelievable. That, like, it just can't to show you, if you got the wrong people around you, how much it can change you, you know, as a player and as a person.
Yeah, no, 100%. Steve Hasty watched
One
that.
One from me, Melly. It puzzles me why they seem fixed on buying all these Dutch players, paying a bloody fortune for them. And how many have done it for you? How many have done it for you? Very few.
You know, it's hard to get that balance because there's no league like the Premier League. It's the fastest league in the world. You know, like, you haven't got a minute on the ball. Whereas in the Dutch league or in the French league, they bring them over here and they think it's going to be the same game. It isn't. They get found out. The confidence gets knocked. And before you know it, you know, like, 85 million they paid for Anthony. I'm yet to see him beat the first man on a cross. I'm yet to see him, like, score more than, like, half a dozen goals in it's absolutely ridiculous. And Xerxes the same, although I felt sorry for him getting booed off. Nobody should get booed off, but I think it doesn't matter who he brought off there at that point, it would have gotten the same reaction because everybody felt like they should have started with Manu against Newcastle. You know, you got a good midfielder, and that's where the game was going to be won or lost. We started somebody who basically died on the pitch 5 years ago, and Casemiro, who's probably had like 40 minutes in the last 4 or 5 games against, like, the Premier League's current best 3. So it was a recipe for disaster. So, but still, Xerxes, he's not given a lot of confidence. You know, like, he's fighting it hard. Me personally, at this point, I would bring some of the young'uns through because, like, you've got Harry Amas there who's a left back. Put him in. He's a young'un. He's come through the ranks. He's played against, like, in a fast environment. Put him in. You know, like, you've got to give the young'uns a chance. We've got no to lose.
No, definitely not. Well, it's going to be a long season for you, Melly. I think the Mind the Gap texts that have been going backwards and forwards between you and me might only be coming from one side, but you never know. You've muted us. The good news is we have got some breaking news before you leave, Melly, and that's that Manchester United have signed free agent Stuart Little in a multi-million-pound deal to help save them from relegation, mate. So
we better than Anthony.
Good luck at that new signing. Melly, thanks for coming on, mate. Thanks for being a good sport. Look forward to
You're
seeing
welcome,
you
and good luck in the Carabao Cup. You're nearly there. So out of the 4, I would like you to win it, to be fair.
Top man. Speak to you soon, Melly. God bless you.
Yes, Melly.
Great stuff. Good of Melly to come on. And that wasn't planned. Everybody in the chat was saying, "Where's Melly? Where's Melly?" So there you are. I messaged him and fair play. He came straight on. We will have a quick interlude now. And as you know, we did get rid of Tyne lookalikes. So it is a new segment, an old segment, but a new segment on this show. And it is my first Tyne match. And if you have got one of these, please email us, nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. It's got to be a paragraph at least about your first match. And Mark Byers, he is in the chat, so I haven't had to text him to say, Mark, you're on. And Mark sent me a lovely email talking about a game which I was at in 1986. He says, my first game at St James's Park was actually an England B game in the early 80s, but my first Newcastle competitive game was November the 30th, 1986 versus West Ham. It was a game chosen for ITV broadcast on the Big Match Live Because of the previous meeting between the two in April 86, when West Ham battered us 8-1 at Upton Park and Beardsley ended up in goal for us, I was 12 at the time, and my mother would never let me go previously because of how football grounds used to be in the early 80s. But she eventually allowed my cousin's husband to take me to the game. My dad would never take me near St James's Park because he's a Sunderland fan and he used to take me to stand on the Fulwell end instead, but I always wear a Newcastle top under my Geordie jeans denim jacket. I was sat in the stand at the end nearest the Gallagher. My main memories of the game were an Indian war cry from a bloke sat not too far away and a young Paul Ince making his debut from the bench for West Ham. Another thing which stuck in my mind was the racist chanting towards George Paris of West Ham, which was indicative of football grounds in the 80s. Thankfully, football has come a long way since in that respect. We unexpectedly won the game 4-0 with goals from Neil MacDonald and Andy Thomas with a brace and Darren Jackson. I went on to attend random games with the same lad over the next few years, and then from 1989 in the scoreboard to Milburn Paddocks to the new Leazes stand until 2018 when I moved to America. I never missed a home game, including the crappy nights in the Zenith Data Systems Cup and the Simod Cup. All I ask now is please, Newcastle, win an effing trophy. So there we go. A few images there taken from Facebook and from YouTube, but that is Mark's first game. Thank you for sharing that, Mark. And if you have got a first game, please email it to us. No other way of doing this. Email nufcmatters1892@gmail.com, and that way I can get a hold of it and read it out on the show and play some more music which blasts your speakers. Steve Middlemas says, fair play, Melly. He never hides and he speaks well. He certainly does. Talking Turf is his podcast on YouTube. He struggled to get that build up. There's so many Manchester United podcasts out there, and Melly does struggle to get numbers. So if you get a chance to subscribe, please do that. That will be fantastic. And we will feature hopefully another one next week. But make sure it's a decent read. It's a paragraph. You get the idea. Mark set the standard high. He set the bar high. So please do. And a big thank you to everybody watching tonight. We've got 1,077 people watching tonight, which is great. We are broadcasting on Twitter as well. 545 on YouTube. That means there's nearly double the amount. The same amount on Twitter as well. If you're on Twitter, jump over to YouTube, search NUFC Matters and hit the subscribe button. It is free and we do 7 shows a week. As always, plenty to get through, and we will be looking ahead, of course, to Newcastle's trip to Spurs, which is an early kickoff. Newcastle get a chance to gain the advantage, which normally we're playing the last game. We will be looking at that in the second half of the show. But there's lots of places and lots of things we can be talking about. We're going to ask about the transfer window, and I am going to read this, and I'm probably only going to read this once. Barry sent us the list. Now you're going to have to forgive us for me pronunciation on some of these. Richarlison, Magnus Akalushi, Thomas Araggio, Loic Bardier, Alex Bainer, Juma Barr, Johan Bakayako, Daniel Ballard, Norman Bassett, Martin Batterina, Elias Ben Sagia, Jared Bowen, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Alvaro Cazares, Mark Casedo, Santiago Castro, Ryan Shekri, Lucas Chevalier, Federico Chiesi, Andreas Christiansen, Matthias Tuna, Jonathan David, Liam Delap, Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, Brahim Diaz, Tyler Dibbling, Julian Duranville, Hugo Ekatike, Anthony Alanga, Wout Faze, Tom Fellows, Evan Ferguson, Angel Gomez, Joe Gomez, Jack Grealish, Mark Gahey, Victor Goikarez, Hayden Hackney, Taylor Harwood Bellis, and Gustavo Isaacson. The list goes on, lads. George, what do those people have in common?
Hello.
George, what do those people have in common?
Most of them most of them I wouldn't have across the doorstep. It's St James's Park, and they're all people who are being pushed by various press outlets and probably their agents. You know, it's all fiction. That's the biggest thing. The one name that I'd like to see there isn't even included, and that's the guy from Brentford. There was one mentioned who I've looked at since I heard his name. Gibbling, is it Gibbling? He's a tidy footballer, but the rest, no, thank you. It's anybody and everybody that's looking for somewhere to go, and they're all pointing them all in our direction. Which is
91, George, so far. I mean, the list. Yeah. I think I got down there to no, I got halfway. I can't read them all. I'd be taken up off the program. But I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? That's how many we've been linked with already, and it's only the 3rd of January.
Well, and especially as Eddie Howe and anybody else at the club that speaks plays down the fact that we're going to sign anybody, but still they keep piling it on. But it's all the outside issues that are pushing these things, like agents and Uncle Tom Cobley and all, and some of the journalists who don't particularly like Newcastle United anyway. So you know, it's a nonsense to me. There are one or two around, as I say, that are worth a look at, and if we could get them. Is it Memembo or from Brentford, and I like the look of this lad, Gibbling, and off the top of my head, I have seen somebody who excites me, and people think I've gone slightly crazy. For a cheap punt, for a support, for a backup centre forward, I'd be having a look at the big lad in Bromley. Other than that.
Okay, I mean, Eddie Howe, Mitch, in his press conference today was asked, would Botman be like a new signing? He said, yeah. He was also asked about, players, other players who potentially could be coming in. But is it fair to say that you won't be doing much business in this window? And he more or less said yes.
Well, I still remain convinced we won't be terribly active. But we may be opportunistic if the right deal comes along at the right time and at the right kind of price. Yes, they might want to make it happen, particularly given what form and the way things are going with our league position at the moment. It might be the right time to be opportunistic in that respect. One thing I can almost guarantee, whoever we do sign, if we do sign anyone, they won't be on that list. You know, that list might as well include Hugh Pugh, Barney McGrew, Cuthbert, Dibble, Grubb and Umbongo from the bloody Congo for all I care. We're such an easy club to be tacked onto at the end of a story. The other thing we're battling at the minute is the paid media by certain clubs, in particular one at the moment, pushing this narrative that we've got to sell Isaac, that we will sell Isaac, and that one particular club needs to quote-unquote break the bank to sign Isaac. And you've even got somebody on Sky TV rocking up with a list of players that we might sign when we sell Isaac. Well, will you all just fuck off? You know, the numbers you're quoting at the minute for Isaac wouldn't buy his right testicle. You wouldn't come anywhere near what his value actually is. He's contracted to us for a long time and he's our player. And he's even said on Swedish TV, go and watch it on YouTube, he's going nowhere and he's got no interest to go anywhere. So I think this is the kind of thing we're battling. It's more targeted media against Newcastle United because, again, we're the bad guys, aren't we? I find it interesting to hear Melly say, everybody at Man United wanted to shake if that deal was ever real at all, of course.
The fake shake.
But what he forgets is they're then catapulted into that world of, well, let's see what the argument would have been, because the narrative still is American money's good and the money from the Middle East is bad. And so we're not just talking about dealing with it, normal incomings and outgoings. We're talking about made-up shit from the media that we're having to sort of almost, as a fan base, it's really hard for it because, you know, we're going to bite. It's difficult to treat it just as what it is, which is white noise to drive traffic to websites and get clicks and generate cash from, you know, ads on websites. It's very, very frustrating. And that list is just year on year, it's always been the same. But right now, it's funny how they want to say we're going to sign this one, that one, the other one, and then in the next breath, they're also saying, isn't FFP a good thing because it stops Newcastle United from signing people? Well, make your mind up. What do you want me to do? And so I think I would be surprised if we're terribly active, but I do think we'll be flexible and opportunistic. I really, really, really wouldn't, you know, be surprised to see something silly happen in the last week of the window if somebody suddenly becomes available and we suddenly are able to make a deal happen.
Do you want some more names, Steve? Victor Osimhen, Castello Lukiba, Noni Madeke, Ibrahim Maza, Lennon Miller. Who the hell's Lennon Miller? Kola Mioni.
You're just making these up now.
Matthias Nunes. Well, I'm not. Barry is. Gabriel Peck. Sounds like he should be in a tin. Chris Rigg. Chris Rigg from Sunderland. I'm sure they just do that to wind the Mackhams up. Tavernier, Marcus Tavernier, Kenneth Taylor, Malik Thiaw, James Trafford, of course, that's been linked with Newcastle many times. Kevin Zenon, there was a planet on Blake 7 called Zenon. Marco Asensio. I mean, the list is comprehensive.
Harry from Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah. So there you are, Steve. I mean, it's a long list, and it's going to get longer, isn't it, before the end of this transfer window?
It is. I mean, some interesting names. I mean, that everybody's saying, "Oh, Tyler, is it Tyler Dibbling, Southampton?" I mean, we're talking there about a young lad who has been at Southampton since he was about 5 years old, and then I think he went to Chelsea and played 2 games for them and didn't like it and didn't settle, and they immediately brought him back to Southampton because he was crying.
Got homesick, Steve. So how the hell is he going to come to Newcastle? Got homesick.
Exactly.
Apparently.
He was homesick.
Going to come to Newcastle?
Chelsea, and he said that I think he felt as though coming back to Southampton was like his dream move. And we're only talking about a couple of months ago, if that, you know. Give the lad a chance to settle down, and you know, yeah, he looks like a fine prospect. But we've seen these before. Liam Delap, there's another one. I mean, Delap was at Man City for years, and then they formed him out for, you know, to 3 or 4 clubs, and then he went to Ipswich and then signed for them. Scored goals in the Championship. He looks like a decent player, but he's not the proven article, and people are already talking as they did last season with Ewan Ferguson at Brighton. And now they're saying Ferguson, who's only played 2 games this season, by the way, you know, so he's hardly setting the world on fire. And this is what happens to young players. You know, Ferguson, he got an injury and hasn't looked the same, and then the manager comes in and he doesn't fit into the pattern or the shape, or by then they've bought somebody else who does fit in and the manager likes the style. But these are big gambles. I think there's more chance of Newcastle getting rid of players than there are players coming in, to be perfectly honest. I think that I can see the likes of Almiron and Trippier moving, and perhaps Target as well. They're the three that I think.
What I would say is, if we do outgoings like that, that tells me that towards the end of the window there will be at least one incoming. Exactly.
The spaces need to be made as well. Let's not forget. I mean, you know, you hear whispers of Almiron and I mean, everybody's been saying that Longstaff, but I understand Sean's quite happy to stay and fight for his place, as most proper footballers would. You know, he's not in the team at the moment, but Eddie thinks very highly of him. And when he comes in, he for me, he performs very admirably, and I don't think he lets anyone down. I think, you know, there's certain fans.
We rarely lose when he's in the team, Steve.
Sorry, George?
we rarely lose when he's in the team.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, now we've found a system, and I think it's a case of where would he fit if, for example, there was a gap in the midfield. Where would Sean immediately fit into? Because I think it's the position that is now taken up by Tonali. That number 6 role, playing a little bit deeper. And I think that unless it was Tonali who was out, and I think he's also got a little bit of competition from Miley, who's come back looking very, very big, very strong, very athletic. Looks like there's been a lot of work done while he's been injured. And he'll be looking for an opportunity. If I was a Newcastle fan, who worried about transfers, which I'm not, because I think that we've got to sit back and just let things ride. But if I was someone who was going to sit panicking all day about who could be bought and sold, and FFP was a problem, I would worry that Miley could be next season's Anderson, for example. If the Premier League are still trying to wrap us up in knots in terms of FFP and profit and sustainability, I'm hoping that we've got round that. I noticed Chelsea today. Their one of their owners has just spent 50 million on an apartment block an apartment in Chelsea. I'm wondering whether the club's going to suddenly lay claim to that apartment block in the first place. And he's going to say that he's bought it off them. Because not much and even there were magic, little bit of magic comes into it, and before you know it, Chelsea will lay a claim on that apartment because it's called an apartment in Chelsea. Oh, that's ours, by the way. Oh yeah, okay, that'll come off your books as well. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But I mean, I think last season was there 170 odd names linked. Steve, it was way, when Barry was keeping the record. In fact, it might have even tipped over the 200. God knows.
Yeah, 202, I think it was, something like that.
Absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. But I think
the situation we've got on the go at the minute is Dubravka, and really, I think Eddie's basically batted that away, saying, well, it might be just in the hands of the player to decide, because, okay, if there is a deal on the table for him, he's got some book value. It's not like we're short coverage. However, this Dubravka is very different to the one that come back into the team last time, and he seems to be doing well, and so you don't want to rock that boat. At the same time, he's a free agent at the end of the season, and it might be in his best interest, actually, just to sit it out to the end of the season and then get a contract somewhere as a free agent, which is more advantageous for him, rather than go in January, which might not be as advantageous for him. So, there's a lot of assumptions being made there. And so I don't think anything's very clear on the ins and outs at all. And the Spurs just said, linked with 202 last time round, and was signed 4, and 2 of them are bloody goalkeepers. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, interesting what Eddie Howe was saying today about Dubravka. He was asked the question about Dubravka, and obviously he's been heavily linked with Dubai. But he didn't heap praise on Dubravka, but he didn't dodge away from the question either. But will Nick Pope be back in? Will Dubravka still be here? We're gonna have to wait till the end of January to find out. I will stick by what I've said on a couple of the lives that I've done over the Christmas period, and that is that Eddie will be very reluctant, and he did re-emphasize this today. He will be very reluctant to change that dimension in the dressing room that he's found. A lot of people are pointing towards a positional change at Tonali as the reason that we've gone on this wonderful run over the last month. But for me, I think that anyone going out, especially somebody who's a big influence in the dressing room, whether that's a Sean Longstaff or a Miggy Almiron, let's say, those kind of players, will be amiss in the dressing room. They've been there for a long time. They're part of the team. They're part of the squad. That's going to change the dimension. Likewise, anyone coming in from elsewhere, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard because that person has got to come and fit straight in. And we've already seen with Eddie Howe as well. Anyone coming in to Newcastle United, very rarely gets that opportunity to hit the ground running in the first team, and only so because they have to get up to Howe's speed. You know, I think there's a lot you can read out of that press conference today, and I think, you know, the big question about Eddie Howe's you know, return of Sven Botman, is that going to be like a new player? I think that probably is, and you know, I don't think Newcastle will go gung ho. Maybe another youngster. We've seen links with another Scottish youngster potentially. Dibley's a youngster as well. Newcastle have been linked with him. Trafford's still young as well. He's not somebody who will come straight in. And yes, it's another goalkeeper, but one would imagine we'll probably, if we do bring a goalkeeper in, it's going to get rid of another. But I still think the summer will be the you know, the big thing. And yes, Yvonne, what I mean is the atmosphere. That we do need good players on the pitch, 100%. But what I'm saying is that kind of, you know, team morale that they've got in the dressing room is just as important. It's all very well having 11 great players, but if they don't get on, then you're not gonna do well. That's what I mean, Yvonne. Maybe I didn't explain myself as well.
This is where the goalkeeper situation is important, Steve, because again, when you've got a position, the most important position there, the goalkeeper, and how he performs with the back four, and you know, Eddie's looking at that, and Eddie will know what's going on with Dubravka. He'll know the situation. He'll have had words with Dubravka. He'll know what the situation is. But in terms of looking at it and thinking, well, Pope's still injured. We've got a goalkeeper who's never really been given an opportunity. Do I bring another goalkeeper in if Dubravka decides to leave? Or do we do everything we can to persuade Dubravka to stay until the end of the season? To Dubravka, it's probably a horses for courses decision to be made, because like Mitch says, at the end of the season he goes on a free. He'll have a deal lined up anyway, and if he goes now, it's because he's decided it's the best deal for him. It's not because Eddie's trying to push him out the door. Eddie wants to have a goalkeeper that's in place, and let's face it, Dubravka's done nothing wrong over the last 4 games. He's kept clean sheets. He's only conceded 1 goal in 5 games. We can't knock the lad for his performances. And I think that's because he's playing behind Shaw, he's playing behind Byrne, and he's at times played behind Trippier. And we've got Lewis Hall, who's been playing out of his skin. Tino come in, and Tino's done very, very well as a fullback as well. But that's a steady back four. So he's been lucky to play alongside a steady back four. Tomorrow might be different. Like you say, if it's Botman or if it's Kelly who comes in, because it's going to be one of the two. And I know, like, you listened to the press conference and Eddie was going on about, or he was asked a question about having 2 left-sided centre backs, and as you point, you can play 2 right-sided centre backs. Why can't you play 2 left-sided centre backs?
Nobody ever talks about that.
Somebody mentioned that at the press conference today, though. But I feel like it's Groundhog Day, because that's something that we were talking about. You know, that was something we were talking about the last time Botman was fit. So it's the press just regurgitate their old stuff. You know, it's the new thing to talk about, isn't it? I'm just going to touch on this. Sean says, I disagree, Steve. This window is more important than the summer. We've got Europe in our grasp, a semi-final, but 2 first-team injuries, and it's over. I'm not saying that it should be that way, Sean. I'm saying that might be the situation. And Eddie didn't hamper on about PSR, but it was brought up again, you know, and you know, he's playing this transfer window down, and I think it's the right thing to do, because ultimately, you know, from our perspective, you know, we don't want to get carried away thinking we're going to bring X, Y, and Z in. If we bring players in, it's going to be a nice surprise, but I do think that he will want to protect that kind of vibe he's got going on in the dressing room, you know. But you know, it's up to Mitchell. Nobody's mentioned Mitchell in the chat. This is Mitchell's first crack at a window on his watch, on his kind of stance, and it'll be interesting to see what we bring in, what we attract. We're getting heavily linked with lots of younger players. That's probably why we don't recognise half those names on the list. And I think that'll be the way forward. You know, lots of people will probably be scratching their heads when X, Y, and Z comes in. But if you look at the players that he signed for other clubs, you know, that there has been relative unknowns or players that maybe haven't done as well at other clubs, and then bang, you know, that he's had a success. But like everybody in that position that Mitchell's in, he's had success and he's had failure. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this window. It really will be good. Ray says, I'd love to see Mitch come as the club dentist and do some govy jobs in Pink Lane and fix my mouth situation. Thanks for the donation to the Malverno Fund. It's getting right topped up because we didn't have Mitch and Stu here, so it was only me and Steve Hasty with Joe Allen on the UFC Matters Christmas do this year. But don't worry, there's plenty of money in the bank from you lot now for the next trip over. We're going to have a quick break. We'll have an ad break. We'll be back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Contact them at their website, skipsandbins.com, or email www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at mrvickies.co.uk. Email them info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. 2 crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges, all excursions included. Find them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. Their website is media-arts.co.uk. And we're also available as a podcast. You can find us on Sports Social, Podcast Network, iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel, then hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up that likes each video, and click share to share to your social media. Some Newcastle United events coming up. An evening with the entertainers, 24th of January 2025. Box office number is 0191 243 1171. Or website, Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk. An evening with Lee Clark takes place on the 31st of January at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are available on Voucher or from newcastlelegends.com. An afternoon with Celeste Ferdinand takes place on the 6th of April 2025, 12 p.m. till 4 p.m, and that's at the O2 City Hall in Newcastle. Tickets from www.ticketmaster.co.uk or from Voucher. And did you get a book voucher for Christmas? Then why not buy The Entertainers, 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy by Will Scott. Priced $18.99, also available from newcastlelegends.com. And don't forget as well, Mr. Vicky's Sauces, they are handmade in Cumbria. They are going to be coming to our events very shortly. You can find out more about Mr. Vicky's at mrvickies.co.uk or by telephoning 01768 210102. Looking forward to seeing the guys at the event, and that means that if you're coming to the Peter Beardsley event or the Entertainers event, you're going to get a chance to sample Mr. Vicky's Sauces and firsthand buy some. Me and Steve Hasty did a taste off once at the Irish Club, which was very interesting to say the least.
Yes,
it was. Steve, yes,
I witnessed it. Yes,
there were tears in our eyes when we were doing that.
Yes,
okay,
I remember Steve Wilkinson as well. Poor Steve.
Yes.
He sat there and he said, "Yeah, these are fine, absolutely fine." And then next thing you know, the smoke was coming out of his ears.
Yeah.
Well, it was the Naga sauce. I think
That's the effect. Yes.
Yeah, it was the Naga sauce, I think, that we had. It was absolutely mind-blowing. But great stuff, Mr. Vicky's Sauces. Looking forward to seeing you at the event. Okay, time for Tweet of the Week. And heavy snow is planned across the northeast. We've seen it on the forecast. Just seen a snowflake, this guy, in the supermarket. That's exactly what it's like in the northeast. And as we bid Christmas farewell and we enter the new year, this is the question on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. When is bin day? Today, tomorrow, yesterday, or just copy the neighbours? It's probably best to copy the neighbours. We've had a bit of celebrity spotting in the supermarket up here as well. Just seen Daft Punk and M&S. And photographs that aren't what they thought you were. I thought he was holding an ice cream. Definitely does. Definitely looks like ice cream. And this was good from Ian Hull. He says, "What do you say, lads? A bird? Let's go. You're drunk already. It's a cat."
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Black cat, yeah.
Talking of celebrities as well, here he is, Steven Seagal.
Very good.
But a few people send us that. Thank you for that.
Not the Sunderland one, is it?
This dog has a heart on his forehead. Good for you, says the cat. And Doctor Who was back at Christmas. Gary sent me this. Got some new shower curtains. Only problem is I stepped out of the shower and it was 1825. It's a lot of bog roll for 1825, that, Gary. And thanks for the iPad, Grandma. This lucky boy didn't get the iPad he was looking for.
He got an iPad. Oh, dear.
An emergency telephone in Jimmy Moore's country. Dial 999 for Coast Guard, police, fire, or ambulance. There we go. 123 is what it had on. Fantastic. And this woman, unfortunate choice of name, lads. Unfortunate choice of name. I decided to cut the message off at the bottom. I probably would have had the channel closed down. Thank you for this, Tango. He says, too late for lookalikey, but maybe a tweet of the week. When I discovered I was holding the taser the wrong way around, I was stunned.
Oh.
But
The electric one, that one. God.
Exactly. Star Wars toilet paper to clean your dark side, lads.
Oh,
And I had a couple of people send me this, suggesting I should get this as a podcast chair.
oh, aye. I
Fantastic,
think we
that,
should
isn't
get
it?
all one.
Get all one. We should all have one.
Yeah.
And someone sent us this. Some of our viewers have got too much time on their hands. The Starship Enterprise.
Oh.
I bet you there'll be people at home now trying to find different things.
Definitely.
We haven't had a Star Trek one for a while, so New Year we'll bring it back. I read the capital of Ireland's population is growing extremely fast. That's true. It's Dublin.
Oh.
And thanks to Mitch for this one. The existence of the meatball sub implies that there also exists a meatball dom. Thanks, Mitch. Just sold my homing pigeon on eBay for the 22nd time. And a couple of signs. Please stand close. You are holding a pistol, not a rifle. And who you're going to call? Goat butter.
Oh, dear.
Registration. Good registration plates for good businesses is what we've had a few of these over the years. The chimney sweeps northeast. Brilliant. Very good. And another sign. Well, at least this has been cleared up. Employee attitude. Staff need to stop acting like they don't want to be here. Management. We're not acting. Staff. And in this lift, 4 persons maximum, 1,000 kilogram. They went a little bit extra on it. Or 1 horse, 5,050 bananas, 6,666 hen eggs, 7,941 pigeons, 88 haddock, or 10,526 nickel. Okay, coming up to the business end. Gary Scott sent us this one. 9-letter word means embarrassment. Man United.
Brilliant.
And they say the first step is the hardest, lads, but it's actually the third step right before your balls go in the water. That's for everybody who did the Tyne mouth dip at the weekend at the Long Sands. And don't sit too close to your TV, it'll hurt your eyes. We were probably all told when we were younger. 40 years later. And I hope you took your pill, Lacey. 45 years later. I hope you took your pill, Fred.
Hey.
2 different meanings. And a monk who claims he saw face of Jesus in his margarine tub said, "I can't believe it's not butter."
Oh, Stephen, man.
Thank you, Stephen.
Lordy.
And one from Stephen again. "Now that food has replaced sex in my life, I can't even get into my own pants."
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And Colin Walker sent this a tweet of the week. What a Yorkshire person says to Jack when he's not on time: "Ejaculate."
Oh, goodness gracious.
And this man was on bullseye twice, lads.
Yes.
I thought that was appropriate after the Christmas special. And congratulations to the lads who completed the Gateshead flyover on time.
Well done.
Paul Watson, thank you for this one. "Man sits on me by train. The man says loads of psychopaths around here." Me, really? The man says loads, mate. Me, how do you know? Man, well, the signs, aren't there? Me, I guess. Man, I love them. 47 minutes of awkward silence. The man leaves the train. He has a bike. I realised he was saying psychopaths. And Tim Krull had a Merry Christmas with this one. Thank you,
Yeah,
Mark Slavin, for
That's
pointing that out.
child abuse, that.
And thank you to Edward Farms for this one. He says, it's a bit of a Roman joke. Guess how many women I slept with? Damn, not that many.
Oh,
Thank you to Chippers for this one. I didn't even need to say that it was Chippers who sent it. I'll leave you to work that one out for yourselves. And Soda Pop Kid came in at number 3 with this one. A cinnamon bun. Not actual size, it says. Number 2 is this one. I think I'll try mine on at home.
Yeah.
listening rooms. Oh, yes, yes. I think I would as well.
And the winner this week, well done, Gary. I went into Burger King today. The woman servant had a badge on her left breast that said, "Pat." To cut a long story short, I'm now banned from Burger King. Thank you to everybody who's chipped in with them this week. If you want to send one in, you just need to go to our Facebook group or our Facebook page. You can join the group or you can like the page and stick them on there. We'll pick them up, or at Steve Wraith on X, and we'll feature them on Tweet of the Week. And yes, Ian, trust Chippers to come up with that one. We don't see much of them these days, but when he sends us a message, I always read them, and he always sticks them on. Thank you for that one, mate. Thank you for that one. Okay, I'm going to take Darren's question that he asked us earlier. It's his question for the lads. If we keep playing like we are, do you think we could become title contenders, George? Bearing in mind, at this stage last year in 95-96, Newcastle were 11 points behind Manchester United, and Manchester United were 11 points behind Newcastle United and went on to win the league. Newcastle are 11 points behind Liverpool, aren't they, at the moment? Newcastle, could they do the same?
Steve, I go back to where I started the programme saying how hesitant we were about the games we were facing. And I think without exception, we were all saying if the right Newcastle turns up, we have the ability and the power to beat them. Well, I'll take that further. If the right Newcastle turns up, we have the ability to beat anybody that's in front of us at the moment. And that includes Liverpool, in my view. The way we're playing at the moment, these last 4 games have been an eye-opener to lots of people, particularly people outside the club and outside the city. But it hasn't all been an eye-opener to me or you lads who've been watching it. There's been pockets of it there for a while now. It just so happens that these 4 games, it's all come together at the same time. Now, if they can keep that going, goodness knows where they'd be. It would only take another 3 wins and we'd be knocking on the door of the top straight away. You know, it's that close. In fact, it's so close you can taste it. I'm always Mr. Optimistic, and goodness gracious, I would love that if we went on a run that frightened people above, particularly. And why not? I mean, look at the way Forest's gone. in their run to second place. Who would have thought they were, sitting watching Sky the other night, they were picking the possible players of the season. The centre forward came out, Chris Wood. My God,
Legend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like them. I like Chris Wood, but to get to that stage. So the long answer to a very, very good question from Darren is, I think if we keep the squad together as they are now, and Eddie very craftily rotates what we've got more backup on the bench, in my opinion, than we had in previous seasons to combat injury. I mean, and young Miley, God, he looks like a tank now. They've bulked him up so much. Yeah, why not? As I say, it was Mr. Optimistic. I think we could give it a go if the right Newcastle's played.
Yeah, James, probably won't get back to this question, but he says, I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, but where do the lads think would be so far this season had Eddie started the season with Tonali as the 6 and Bruno as the 8? I mean, it's all very well with hindsight. I mean, yeah, we could have picked up more points, but where would we have been, James, if we took our chances? Over 20 plus chances on goal at Everton and a penalty which we missed. A 0-0 draw at Everton, which should have been 5 or 6-0 on the road. We should have had. If we played Everton this week, playing like that, scoring the goals that we did, we would have hammered them. Was it the positional change? Is it just a change in fortune? Is it the fact that Isak's found his scoring boots and Newcastle's found a way to create? It could be, but I think it's 13 point the gap now, and somebody said it was 12 points the gap between Newcastle and Manchester United. I think if you go back and look at it, I'm pretty sure it was probably 13.
It was 13 at one point.
It was 13 at one stage. So it's actually exactly the same than Mitch. 13 points. 13 points gap. Who's to say we couldn't do it? Look at Ipswich. Leicester, they won the league a few years back.
If you want to talk about that comparison, the thing about that season, people talk about Newcastle blowing it.
Yeah.
But it genuinely took an exceptional Man United team going on an exceptional run of games, including that 1-0 win at St James's Park, where we battered them for 90 minutes and just couldn't break them down. And Schmeichel saved everything with his bloody bell end and his arsehole and his fingertips and you name it to keep the ball out of the net. And Cantona popped up with a goal, and that was that. We need to be that juggernaut coming on a roll, and we need Liverpool to go on a wobble. It needs a lot of things to happen. I don't think you'll find Eddie talking about this. He'll be going game to game to game, and that's the right way to look at it. Just game to game to game, and let's see where we're at. We are on a run of form at the minute that is starting to make people panic. That's why certain parts of the media are trying to sell Isaac forward. Why we're not being talked about in certain discussions. I thought I caught a Sky Sports discussion recently where they were talking about who would be title contenders, and they didn't include Forest in the discussion at all.
Yeah,
which is exceptionally disrespectful. I kind of understand why. But at the same time, that's disrespectful. They're sat where they are on the league on form and should be afforded respect for that. We are quietly going about our business. However, that win at Man United and the win against Villa in particular make it less quiet. And we're going to talk about the Tottenham game soon and what opportunities await there. One thing's for sure, Eddie will have us going about our business the right way and focusing just on the next game. And that's all we can do. Next game, next game, next game. And I think that's our measure. And what will be the league table never lies at the end of the day. Let's be honest about Liverpool. They're the only team that's shown any kind of consistency this season. That's why they are where they are. Every team goes through a wobble. How Liverpool respond to that wobble will be very interesting. Part of us kind of likes how Slot goes about his business, and part of us finds him as an arrogant arsehole. And I think we'll find out which one he is when Liverpool have their little wobble. If they have a little injury crisis, if they're short of a couple of players here and there, then we'll find their measure. And until then, we can just do what we can do and sod everybody else.
Yeah, I just want to say happy birthday to Roger Cook in the chat. We did turn, we did see him the Christmas do. Great to see you, Roger. And yeah, thoughts as well with Dave's family, of course. Somebody who we lost a couple of years ago now. God, I can't believe it's you know that length of time has passed since Dave passed away. But he was a big supporter of the food bank, and of course a big supporter of this channel. Can we win the league, Steve?
This season, probably not, simply because Liverpool are so far ahead. And I think that the current Liverpool is far better, in a far better place mentally than we were when we were sitting top of the league and Man United came chasing us down. I don't see us of the same mentality as Manchester United were when they were on the chase. Having said that, there's no reason why we can't go for a top 4 place, and top 4 or 5 would probably get into the Champions League this year. I mean, the coefficient, I think we're way ahead of everybody else in terms of being able to get that 5th spot. So there will be 5 places up for grabs in the Champions League next season. And that's got to be our first target. That's what we've got to aim for. Yeah, Liverpool might get some injuries. They've had a problem at the back. They've got Joe Gomez out now for what looks like 3 or 4 games, although it looks like they've got a couple of defenders coming back. I think it needs an injury or two to the likes of Salah, for example, to take him out of the game. I think they need to lose Robertson or Trent, or the most important one of the lot in terms of holding them together, which is Van Dijk. If they suddenly went and had a few injuries to some of those key players, then why not? There's every opportunity, but we've just got to keep going, doing what we're doing, just picking up points. Somebody said there we've played some poor teams and we've played some off-form teams and we've played teams with only 10 men. You've just got to beat what's put in front of you, and that's what we've done. And we haven't conceded goals either. And that's when the teams around you start to worry. You're not conceding and you're scoring goals for fun, and you're picking up maximum points. A couple of weeks ago, I had Chelsea down as the dark horses for the league. The following week, they imploded. So I'm not going to turn around and say that we're now the dark horses for the league, because I've just put the sphere of destiny onto us and get that arrow stuck right in the back of the neck. So I'll avoid that one. But I mean, like I said, it's just who we put in front of us. We've just got to beat them. We'll just carry on doing playing our own game, and see what goes on around us. And that's what Forest had done. Forest aren't pulling up any trees as far as I'm concerned. That wasn't a pun, by the way. But that, I don't think that they have played outstanding football, but they have steadied themselves at the back. They've got a little bit of a run going, and that's just taken everybody by surprise. And it was only a couple of weeks ago we were sitting in 11th, 12th, 13th place, and now we're sitting in 5th, and that just goes to show how tight it is below Liverpool. And we can certainly catch Forest, because I think Forest's run will probably die out. It's what Arsenal are doing, it's what Chelsea are doing, it's the resurgence of Man City when it comes, that we've got to be looking out for, because at the end of the day, they're the clubs with the experience. They're we talk about it's kind of strange because people talk about the managers and this type of thing, but it's the club in general that has the experience, the mentality. It's everyone around the club that gets you to somewhere. It's not just having Arteta as the manager or that type of thing. It's very much, in my mind, it's the mentality throughout the football club, that winning mentality, that mentality to get you over the hurdle, if you like, and whether that's the coach driver, whether it's the physios, and whether it's the coaching staff, the players, the tea lady, whomever. Once you get into that winning feeling, it becomes something that suddenly spreads out throughout the football club. That's what we've been lacking, and that's what we're trying to build. And I think when we do win something, I think that's when we'll suddenly move on to the next level. And I think that's when that experience and the confidence comes. And that's I suppose, the exciting part of the growing Newcastle United.
Part of the evolution of the club, Steve, and we've touched on this before in the past, there's a fan base we've got to learn to become winners. There's a fan base we've got to learn to become aware that nearly there is not good enough, and to not be satisfied with that. And to be not satisfied with that doesn't mean you're against the club or you're against the manager. It's this thing we said this in the last few weeks about Eddie. Questions that were raised a few weeks ago didn't mean you were how in or how out. It just meant you had questions that needed answered. Have they been answered? Yes, I've been sat in the back of my seat. Thank you very much, and I'm quite happy that I have been. These things aren't binary. These things are all about the evolution of becoming a club. And it's interesting, it kind of ties in with what Melly said about getting to a final and just almost being happy to be there.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what happened. In that final, they were happy to be there.
Yeah.
And they got there because they've got a history as a club and as a fan base and as a team and as players. They know how to win. And we now are understanding that getting those wins, yes, we can do it in style, but it really doesn't matter if it's 1-0 off of Jacob Murphy's backside in the last minute. The win is what matters. And understanding that being winners is a mentality that permeates through the entire club and should permeate through the fan base as well. And again, there's a big difference between being entitled and spoiled brats and having a mentality that says we're going to be winners and learn to become winners as a habit. You look at what's happened with my favourite American team, the Chiefs. You know, one Super Bowl in their history. And now, you know, they're still being talked down, even though they're the most winning team in the league. And, you know, they're talking about 3-peats now, which would be unbelievable, really. But that's because of the culture that's been built in that club over the last 10 years, where you've got a general manager, a head coach, a franchise quarterback, and players around them who are prepared to pull together and create that mentality in the club. And they're now attracting players they're happy to take pay cuts because they want to just be around that vibe. You know, they've struggled with injuries this season and they've brought players in. An astounding amount of players in, sometimes on incredible deals, because those players just want to be there. They want a taste of that culture. And that's the kind of culture we want to harvest and nurture within Newcastle United. And it's difficult. But I think, like you, I think once we break that floodgate, it's going to become something very different.
You know what we need to get out of our mind? That when we win a semi-final, we still have a final to play. We're in that mindset that winning the semi-final to win.
Being happy to be there.
Exactly.
Yes.
That is the win. That's what we've had that drilled into us since 74. Getting to that final in 74, and it was like, oh, you know, then it becomes an occasion, and it's crazy. But that's what we've got to get out. The semi-final win. There's still somewhere else to go. There's still another game. There's still another victory. There's still another performance, and that's what we've got to drive forward.
Yeah, certainly.
Did you have a great time? Yes, we had a great weekend, but Wax was shit. No, what we should be saying is we had a really shit weekend actually, and didn't enjoy it one little bit, and that changes the way we address that game.
Yeah, I've got to say, my experience of taking certain people to finals and enjoying them, they're such bad bloody losers. I was always glad to get home.
Yeah, lots of things like Mitch has said constantly on this platform for the last 4 or 5 years. It's very simple, you know. We've got to get rid of that kind of mentality. We've got to get rid of the mentality that we don't sell big players with this PSR situation as well. You know, we've got to get rid of that kind of, you know, holding on to players. Eventually we'll sell a player, but we'll buy players in. We're not selling players to, to stick into the family pot anymore. We'll invest wisely. And like the lads have just said there, winning semi-finals. It's not, getting to Wembley's not what we want to do. We want to just get to Wembley and we want to win things, and that's the trick. And we've got to make sure we get, into these European spots every season. Top 4 ideally has got to be the aim, and our owner's already said he wants to be number 1. And number 1 is the aim. And like we said before, the Saudis are in it for the long term. Ian Russell will take this. He says, "What do you think of the old brown ale shirt being re-released? What's your thoughts on that, Mitch? I'll come to you first because I know lots of people are asking about sponsorships. We won't have time to go into that tonight. Gary's going on. Have you heard anything about sponsorships and stuff like that? I'm sure we'll tackle that on the professionals on Sunday. We are back with the professionals at 6:00 on Sunday, and lots of people maybe come back with that question on Sunday, Anthony, about Richard Masters' interview, because we can delve into that after we've talked about the Spurs game. But yeah, the re-release of another shirt, Mitch.
Lovely, but I've seen a question raised. And I find it hard to disagree. When we're talking about getting the fans to go back and put their hands in their pockets and buy Adidas stuff, and there's very few people who buys more Adidas stuff than me. I would like to see a training ground sponsor and a training shirt sponsor, and that would help with PSR better than putting out further Adidas releases, which just feels like a cash grab. I hate to say that, but that's kind of what it feels like. Why now? Why do it now? It seems to be a strange time to do it. It hasn't been done pre-Christmas. Surely the time to do that would have been pre-Christmas. And watch them fly off the shelves. Or Adidas covering their asses because there's so many dodgy Vietnamese replicas out there that they want to sell some of their own now. I can get that shirt from a website here in the UAE for 75 dirhams, which is what, 30 quid. But you've got to go size up. It's certainly popular. You see it kicking around our guys in Dubai, plenty. But here's an official one coming from Adidas, and the timing I find weird. I don't know what the pricing's going to be. It's great. It's fab. It's another option, etc., etc.
There was plenty of match on Boxing Day, Neil.
Yeah,
I noticed in the bar.
It just, trying not to be cynical, it feels like a cash grab. So I don't understand the timing and what it's about. Great idea, but yeah.
Thoughts on it, Steve?
You know what, Steve? I think this fits in with the conversation that we had over Christmas when you give your opinion on the stack, and I give you my opinion on the stack. And the way that you put it over was, what a fantastic one-liner marketing tool that came out when the stack was opened, which was spend your money in here and you think you're buying a striker, you think you're buying a defender, you think you're buying another £50 million player. Where's the big deals? Where's the big sponsorship deals? That's what I want to know. This is just an add-on. And then somebody said there, if these shirts were coming off out the club shop at 45 quid as a replica shirt from something that was from 30 years ago, great. But the fact is, it's going to be another £80 shirt. Everybody's going to want it. Everybody's going to go for it. Yeah, the club's going to cash in. Adidas are cashing in. But it's the fans again dipping into their pockets at a time when it's difficult, and it's the same with the stack. And I just find that this is like getting the fans to go, getting the fans. But I'm looking for the big sponsorship deals. We've had nothing since the summer, nothing since Adidas. And that's purely kit, and you have to have someone who makes your kit. You could have stuck with what you had, or you could have moved on. But where's as you say, where's the training ground sponsor? Where's the naming rights? Where's the big companies wanting to come in and have their names emblazoned on training kit, warm up kit, all of that type of thing. Wonder how much the brown ale logo has cost them for to do it, because again, that's that I know that there was, and I don't want to get into it, but that there are always issues with Newcastle United when it comes to people. As we've seen, I know plenty of people have had cease and desist letters because they've been using the logo, the Newcastle logo, for example, on a particular item, or the people who have requested to use it and they've been knocked back. And yes, the club owns the rights to it, but this is. We've even seen podcasters be ticked off and warned about whether they're particularly using the logo on as a little bit in the corner or whatever, So it's a weird dichotomy, I suppose. We're all crying out saying want to buy new players and want this, but at the moment, the only people who seem to be dipping into their pockets or they're seeking to dip into pockets seem to be the fans. We're not getting the big sponsorship deals. I love the shirt, man. I think it's great. I mean, I always did. I think I've got the long sleeve one with the badges on the shoulder, on the sleeves. I've got the short sleeve one with the badges on the sleeves. They're in a box somewhere. I haven't worn them for ages. But as collector's items, they're great. And if there's one thing I would say is that as compared to the one behind us, for example, it's got the Adidas logo on as well, as opposed to some of the other earlier retro ones that didn't, because there weren't Adidas shirts, that type of thing. And if people want the Adidas, then great. But I just find the whole thing kind of false at the moment, kind of disappointing. Maybe this is a massive deal in the offing that we're going to get landed with, but this is it's a strange one for me, Steve.
Yeah, strange one for most of us, I think. Yeah, Mark Byers, you're right. Richard did get the cease and desist when he had it on his shorts. I think he managed to come to some kind of compromise with the club. But yeah, I remember Johnny Allen as well, who John Allen used to do a lot of stuff for us, obviously memorabilia-wise, merchandise-wise, and he had one or two communications, shall we say, from the club when he maybe did something. And I always found, I mean, John never criticised the club. He said it was fair. It was fair that the way that they dealt with things. They certainly didn't send John a cease and desist letter, but they would maybe, wrap your knuckles, tell you, you can't do that, you can't do that. I don't know what they're like now, mind, but that's why we don't use the club badge on any of our flyers, for example, on the podcast, because you just got to be careful. You've got to be careful. Sorry, go on, Mitch.
Since the Dubai Mag's elevation to an official supporters club, we're still waiting for advice from the legal side of things about what we can and can't use the official club badge on. Mm-hmm. So, for example, when we did the talking with Peter, we couldn't use the club badge on the flyers for that.
Well, history lesson, boys. The badge we've got now stems from a row with the council in the 1974 Cup final. Because as always, tradition was that the Newcastle United used to wear the City coat of arms on their shirt at the cup final. And they tried to do it in 74, and the City refused unless they paid money. And the directors at the time told the City Council what to do with their badge and made their own. So, how things go full circle. But that's getting back to where we were about the shirt. I mean, that's a great shirt. But I agree with Stephen Neal. It sounds terribly like another money grab rather than a genuine attempt to do something positive for the fans. The only positive thing that'll come out of it is that the club and Adidas will get lots more money.
But bottom line is with shirts, lads, if you want to buy it, you buy it. If you don't want to buy it, you don't buy it. It's as simple as that.
And you mentioning the stack, I'll tell you something that's happened here in my street. I've got 2 or 3 neighbours that go out as couples together. None of them are interested in football, but they pay 2 visits a week to the stack.
Well, that's good, yeah.
I think the stack's pretty lovely. And then I'd say to them, "Go on, yeah, it's what we need, more sponsorship."
Yeah, it was a great bit of marketing, that, yeah. Great bit of marketing.
None of them
Time's Time's cracking on. Yeah, it's 5 o'clock. The professionals on Sunday. Stu's just texted us saying you've said 6 o'clock on the show. Yeah, it's 5 o'clock, mate. Sorry, it's already set up for 5, mate, on Sunday. But yeah, people will be happy that the professionals is back, and looking forward to getting Stu back on the platform at the weekend. Okay, believe it or not, we have got a game to look forward to tomorrow. Newcastle United travel to the Tottenham Stadium to take on Tottenham Hotspur. And it's the first game of the Premier League weekend. We take Tottenham on, and they have got a crisis. I will just put this up, which states that Destiny, Doggy, Rodrigo, Bendika, pronounce that one, Guglielmo, Vicario, Richarlison, Ben Davies, Christian Romero, Mickey Moore, Mickey van der Ven are all ruled out for Spurs. That's all confirmed. And Ange Postecoglou also states illness has spread through his squad this week. I don't think he's bluffing either. I think there's quite a few missing. So, as always, we have the lads' point of view, and we will start with Toon Stado.
Hello everyone and a happy new year. Let 2025 be successful for all of you and our favorite club, Newcastle United. Newcastle has only won the first game of the calendar year once in their last 12 years. That was away at Stoke City in 2018 when we won with a goal by Jose Perez. We play Tottenham tomorrow. It's a game that Newcastle has registered 11 wins in the Premier League, only against West Ham. Newcastle has won the same amount of games, which makes tomorrow's opposition the most favourite away from home in the Premier League. When it comes to form, Newcastle has won the last 5 games in a row, 4 in the league and 1 in the Carabao quarter-final against Brentford. 4 clean sheets in a row in the Premier League for the first time since 2022-2023, when Nick Pope set the record of 6 consecutive clean sheets. When it comes to players, Alexander Isak famously scored 25 goals in calendar 2024, only 2 behind Shearer with 27 in calendar 2002, but surpassing Andy Cole from 1994. Jacob Murphy has 3 goals and 4 assists in his last 4 games in the Premier League. 5 games in the Premier League, sorry. And when it comes to Tottenham, Brennan Johnson has 2 goals and 2 assists in his last 4 games for Tottenham. Anthony Gordon is also on a nice streak of 4 goal involvements in the last 4 games in the Premier League. And Tottenham actually have not won any of their last 5 home games in the Premier League. The last time they did so was back in 2008-2009 under Juan de Ramos. Newcastle won 4 out of the last 5 games with Tottenham in the Premier League. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Away the lads.
And if you are travelling to Spurs tomorrow, here is Scunny Mag's review of the bars around the ground.
Hi there folks, Scunny Mag Paul here with another away day guide. This one is for Spurs. If you're visiting the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, everything you need is coming up. Okay, Spurs. Parking, do what you can. Get on the different parking space apps and see which one you can find nearby. You're probably going to have a decent walk to the stadium when you do get parked anyway. I usually say for London clubs you're better using the parking rides and getting the tube in, but that's not great either with Spurs. Your nearest overground station is actually White Hart Lane, which is handy, but that's on the Stansted Express line. It's not an underground station. Your nearest underground is actually on the Victoria line, and you've got a choice between Seven Sisters and Tottenham Hale, which are both between 1.5 miles and 2 miles from the ground, looking at a 40-45 minute walk from the tube stations when you get there, which is a pain in the backside. What I will say for getting out though, and I am going to try on my next visit, is Tottenham Hale has a tube station, has an overground station, and has a bus depot there with routes going off all over the place, so you might actually be better heading there. Staying over, it's London, it's hotels galore, pubs, again, stay in the city centre around the major train stations if that's how you're getting in. If you've gone to the Seven Sisters tube station and you start walking up from there, about a third of the way up on your right there's what looks like used to be public toilets. It's been turned into a pub. It's a cracking little venue actually, do real ales and stuff like that, but they're quite well set up for the match days. They turn people around pretty quickly. There's outside drinking areas. You can find that at Cult Budget Corn, pub closer to the stadium. A cracking little mixed pub called the Antwerp Arms. That's just on the sort of the southwest corner of the stadium. When you are ready to head to the ground, as I say, the away away turnstiles are on the northeast corner. Up some steps. Miss Assist Outfit will get you to there. And this is one of the few that I would recommend getting in early. Concourse is spacious. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of staff on. You've got your bottom filling pint glasses as a novelty. It's London. It is what it is. You're going to expect to be paying silly money for a pint. But yeah, I hope you get the result you're after. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.
Enjoy yourself, Scunny Mag, and anybody who's going down to Tottenham tomorrow, enjoy yourself, travel safe, and let's hope it doesn't get snowed off, because I think that's the only chance Spurs have got. I think this weekend, the amount of players they have got missing. No Joe this week. He is at his daughter's 18th. Happy birthday to her, but he has sent us a video.
Good evening, guys. Happy New Year and all that. I can't be with you tonight, unfortunately, because I'm now the proud owner of an 18-year-old, so I'm out on the lash with my daughter. But I did think it was worth just dropping you some prices for the dreaded early kick-off on Saturday. It's great to see Newcastle being favourites away from home, particularly in London, particularly against Tottenham. We are just over even money to win the game. The draw is 3-1, and Tottenham are just under 2-1. So the bookies really fancy us to get a result on Saturday. Loads of decent attacking players on the pitch, and as you can imagine, Solanke, Son and the informed Johnson all feature heavily in the goal scorer markets for Tottenham. Our lot, of course, Isaac just isn't worth putting money on anymore. He's going to score. Anthony Gordon 2-1, Joe Linton 3-1, Jacob Murphy keeps his place 7-2. Big Dan Burn, who I'm led to believe isn't suspended, he's 9-1, and Lloyd Kelly's coming in at 12-1 if he's the man that's going to come in to replace Fabian Schär. In terms of the correct score, 1-0 Newcastle, 14-1, and that's the same price for you, Mr. Penman. 2-1 Newcastle, 9-1. If you think it'll be a draw, 0-0 is a massive 22-1, so goals are fancied. Ones each, 15-2, and twos each, 9-1. If you think we'll get beat, which is unusual given our recent run against relegation fodder, such as Leicester City and Manchester United, 2-0 Tottenham is 18-1. Red card in the match, 7-2, and if you think there'll be a penalty, that's 8-5. And as we're entering a new year, I thought it was worth just having a look over some of the season prices for some of the outright betting in the Premier League. Obviously, it's not worth putting your money on Liverpool to win the title, but if you think Arsenal will do it, that's 4-1. Chelsea at 25, and we're barring everybody else at 33 and beyond. Newcastle United are 250-1 to keep the run going and romp the league. Maybe next year, we are, though, 11-4 to finish in the top 4, and we're absolutely nailed on, according to the bookies, to finish in the top 6. The relegation betting is always great fun. Interestingly, whether it's through financial irregularity or whether it's because they're absolutely shite, Manchester City are 8-1, and brilliantly, Manchester United are 20-1. I can't see it, but, we live in hope. Top goal scorer, Mo Salah, is way out above everybody else, but Alexander Isak, who happens to be the best striker on the planet at the moment in my eyes, he is 8-1 to finish top scorer in the Premier League. Have a great night, guys. Get your money on Newcastle. Why not? We're beating everybody at the minute, and a Spurs team without any defenders hopefully will feel the wrath of the black and white. Take care. See you back next week. Love you.
Great stuff, Joe. Thank you very much. Hope you have a great night. Bet responsibly, as always, as Joe says, but some great options there. George, I guess the big question for tomorrow, we will get a prediction off you as well. But Michael J asked it earlier. Denise is asking it now. Does Eddie start Botman? Because Fabian Shaw missing for this game, of course, at Tottenham, and also missing for the first leg of the semi-final through his Carabao Cup suspension. So Botman is clearly ready. Eddie has said he is not afraid to take that up. He didn't even mention the word risk.
No.
He's been waiting for an opportunity, and he's got to start something, George. So would he go with it tomorrow?
I think listening to that press conference today, Eddie being Eddie, if there was any chance that Botman wasn't going to start, he would have said so.
Yeah,
he skated around it 100 different ways, but no didn't come out of his mouth. He gave all the reasons why he should. He's fit. He's had 3 games. He's been on the training. He's done all the hard work. We've been guiding him and we've been protecting him. All of that came out, but no. So it would not surprise me one bit if Botman started tomorrow, and that would be fantastic. Absolutely incredible. It's as he's already said, it would be like having a new player again, and he's such a commanding figure. It would give the Spurs attackers something to think about. So yes, I think it's very possible that Botman could play tomorrow, and particularly after Eddie's press conference. As always, Mr. Optimistic, I think there's no reason why we shouldn't go. If the right Newcastle turns up, we've nothing to fear as far as I'm concerned. Spurs aren't anything like some of the teams that we've played, and it will capitulate. I think once they lose a goal, if we could get an early goal against them, like we did against Manchester United, that they'll be gone, because that's the way they go. That's how they are. And as we've seen at St James's Park, there's 1 or 2 of them that as soon as they go down, their heads go down, like Maddison. I thought he was a disgrace at St James's Park. After the second goal went in, he hardly raised a leg. And I think that's how he would be if it happened here. So I'm very optimistic it will be another good weekend for Newcastle United. With
prediction, George?
If you want a prediction, well, I'm another 2-0 for me.
2-0. Okay, Mitch, feelings on the game? Do you think we'll see Botman?
Well, with Botman, I think we might want his superior prowess against Arsenal. He's not going to play both games. He'll play one or the other for me. And I think that if there's a game where we can bring somebody else in, like Kelly, I think, tomorrow's almost certainly that game. Put their injury list into perspective. They're missing their first choice keeper. They're missing their first, second, third and fifth choice centre-backs. They're missing their first choice left-back. They're missing their best central midfielder. And they're missing a £50 million striker. That's an injury list and a half, that. They've got young Archie Gray playing at centre-back. And for all the lads obviously doing a job for his team, that's the kind of job that could kill him. Spurs' only chance tomorrow, because they've got a lot of good attacking players, is to have a go. And it could be one of these end-to-end type games. One thing for sure, we can't assume that we're just going to turn up and roll them over like we did Man United. But once again, what an absolute opportunity to do something that makes a statement again. And if we can get ahead early again, they might be in severe trouble. I think, they've also apparently had illness in their camp this week as well. So there's even a chance that some of the players that are fit might be playing not at 100% or not even involved at all, which that compounds everything. So for me, their only chance is to utilise their strong attacking players and try and have a go, which again could play into our hands with the way we play with the press and the counter-attack. So for me, tomorrow's maybe not the game for Botman, but certainly the Arsenal game maybe.
Okay, got the dice?
I've got the dice.
What's the dice here?
The dice says 1-1.
Okay, 1-1. What do you reckon?
I think it could be closer than people think. We can't just assume that we're going to rock up and steamroll at them for all of their failings and for all of their injury list. They're at home and they've got a bit of pride. But they are also a little bit of Forrest Gump's box of chocolates because you don't know what you're going to get with Spurs. I don't think Postecoglou's got them consistently firing, and I certainly don't think they always play for him. I think there's certain weaknesses there. I'm going to go for 2-0 to us.
2-0, which is the scoreline I've gone for. Steve, how do you see it going? Botman, what's your feelings?
I think Lloyd Kelly will start. I don't think it'll be Botman. I think it's just a little bit too early for Botman. He's been out for so long. I wouldn't necessarily throw him in after having only 2 under-21 games under his belt in possibly a behind closed game or something like that. I think knowing what we've got to go towards later on in the season, I just want to be a little bit more careful with Botman, especially after the injuries had. Tottenham are a bit like Man United, aren't they? You don't know what is going to come out of them. You don't know whether the fans are going to get behind the team or whether they're going to be at the team. You're not too sure where the manager sits. Is the manager getting full support from upstairs, or is he being hung out to dry? Are the fans behind the manager or the fans against the manager? I think everything in all of those statements. I think there's a split. I think there's disharmony. I think also Spurs have always been, I suppose, a bit like us in a way. I shouldn't say that. They're one of those clubs that, from a playing perspective, they think they're better than they are. And I mean that because we keep hearing about this wonderful Spurs and we play this wonderful attacking football and all this type of thing, and they've now got a manager who is literally going gung ho, and they cannot take it. Their hearts cannot take it. It's the most. I find it the most schizophrenic club going, to be perfectly honest. As a fan base and as the performances they put in, they can play anyone off the park when they want to, but they very rarely do it. They only seem to perform against Liverpool, ironically, who they play on Wednesday night, the Carabao semi-final. That's got one eye on that as well. So I'm gonna say that we're gonna carry on in the same vein as we did against Man United. I think that there's no reason why we shouldn't, and there's no reason why we won't. And I'm gonna go for a 3-0 Newcastle United win.
3-0 win. Let's finish with Elliot. My girlfriend broke up with me when she found out I only had 9 toes. She was lactose intolerant.
Oh, God.
Oh, Elliot, man. Yeah, man.
And can I just say well done to Callum Ridds and Chris Doby, flying the flag and the darts over the last few weeks. They've been absolutely brilliant, so entertaining to watch. Both fell at the final hurdle. Unfortunately, the better guys won, and we've got an incredible final tonight. Luke Littler taking on MVG. I think there'll be a few 180s in that tonight, and a few, maybe 1 or 2 9-dart finishes. It's going to be probably one of the best darts finals we've ever seen, and I guess it's split loyalties for most of us. I'm not sure who you really want to win. Part of us would love to see Luke Littler win, but he's Manchester United supporter, so I'm not 100% sure if I wanted to see him win. And MVG, who gets written off quite a bit, is he's a monster. So it's going to be exciting. I am going to go for MVG to win. I think Michael Van Gerwen will win. What about you? Because Mark Byers asked the question. George, do you think Littler's going to do it? 17 years of age.
Yes,
just before
I would like
18?
to see. There's a lot of romance in Littler being the winner, because MVG currently holds the record of being the youngest winner of the title.
Correct.
So Littler would take that off him as well. So it's got a lot of twists and turns, but Littler's so outstanding. I mean, I was looking at his stats the other night when he was on, and they were talking about how many 9 darters in a final. And in the championship games, he's already had more in his short career than any other player that's playing professionally.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So you're going for Littler?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going for MVG. What about you, Mitch?
Shout out to all the regional darts lads. We have 3 Geordies in the last 16. I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal, really. And then looking forward, that's a little bit of a machine. But you know what? And I know he's a bit brash and he's a bit of a gobshite, but Van Gerwen's always brutally honest. You know, he's getting a pat on the back for his performance in the semi, and he turns around the interview and says, "Mate, I've won football here." You know, and he's right. You know, and that's, you know, we're talking about winning mentality. That's what you want. You want that mentality. You want, okay, yes, I've just had a great performance in the semi-final, but what have I won? I've won a semi-final. He seems to have peaked at just the right time, and I find it hard to look past him.
Yeah, Gary said I don't like either of them. I hope it's a draw.
Can they both have a nasty darts-related accident, please?
What's your feeling, Steve?
I'm very much in the Littler camp, I must admit. I watched him the other night, and it was just outstanding. I mean, and then I think it was the quarterfinal I watched, and he was struggling. His head looked like it was going, and they went in for a break. I think it was a 2-all, and he came out, and he just suddenly had pulled it all back together again. And I think he's just got that mental attribute that for a young lad is absolutely amazing. And you know, you just look at him and you think he could, if he wins this, he could go on and he could take Taylor's record, because he's got that in him. You know, he's so young, and I just find him a phenomenon. And I think most of the dog players do as well. That's not taking anything away from Michael Van Gerwen, by the way, who is a phenomenal dog player himself. But I'm in the Luke Littler camp.
I just love seeing these photographs of Luke Littler with every single darts player who he's met as a fan. The one of Stephen, he's like standing there like a 7 or 8 year old alongside Stephen.
Love the one of him through the week in the collarless suit, and somebody said it was a 9 dart.
It was a bit like when Melly was on saying about watch the Gaza video, and as you know, like I told you guys, I watched it, and there's a great scene where Gaza runs onto the pitch and he's carrying the mascot. He's got him under his arm and he's carrying it, and you just look at it now and you think like that was typical Gaza. You do something extraordinary, but that lad's probably like 40-year-old now, and
probably watches this show. Probably, if that was you, if that was you, give us a shout. Let us know. Were you the mascot?
I think it was a Spurs. Yeah, I think it was a Spurs match.
Right, we'll put you on my first match, but my first time I was carried on the pitch by Gaza.
My first match.
Big thank you to everybody watching. We've had just short of 1,300 watching across both platforms.
Thank you, everybody.
If you are on X, jump over to YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. It's a big help to us if you hit the subscribe button, and it is free. We do 7 shows a week. We have, over Christmas, had a bit of time off. We've been putting on the interviews that I did with the entertainers. They're only about half an hour long, so if you haven't watched them, give them a watch. There's some great ones. Paul Bracewell interview goes out tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And then I'm back in the morning on Sunday morning with the Three's a Crowd podcast, the Northeast Football podcast. And then I'm back at 5 o'clock on Sunday with Mitch and Stu with the professionals, looking back at the Spurs game. Fans Forum will be on Monday, and Talk of the Toon will be on Tuesday I'll be back from Arsenal on Wednesday to do a show with Joe Allen. Thursday will be Gibbo, and then we'll be back for the Amigos again next Friday. But thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to the lads for giving up their Friday evening to do the show, and we will see you live with the professionals on Sunday. Take care, lads. Have a good weekend.
All the
Thank
best.
you,
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you.